He was the man who made action look effortless. The one who could leap from a moving car, crash through glass, and walk away without a scratch. Jason Statham, the iron soul of Hollywood. To the world, he was invincible. But that illusion, like all great performances, came from pain most people never saw. Jason was born in 1967 in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, a working-class town where dreams rarely left the ground. His father, a street merchant and occasional singer. His mother, a dancer. Theirs was a modest life, often defined by hustle and survival. For Jason, there were no silver spoons, no glamorous additions, just grit. He grew up learning how to take hits, not from stunt rehearsals, but from life itself. He wasn't born an actor. He wasn't even supposed to be one. His early passion was diving, a discipline he pursued with near-military precision. For 12 years, he represented Britain's national diving team, competing on the edge of excellence but never quite touching gold. It was there he learned the art of falling and rising again, an unspoken preparation for the life that awaited him. But as his athletic career faded, Jason found himself drifting. There were no sponsorships, no red carpets, no cameras, just silence and uncertainty. To survive, he sold jewelry, perfumes, and fake designer clothes on London streets, often under cold rain and indifference. Yet, there was something magnetic about him, that quiet intensity, that unshakable confidence, the sense that he knew who he was, even when life didn't. Then fate intervened. One day, while selling goods on the street, he was spotted by a modeling agency. Soon after, he became the face of a French Connection campaign, raw, rugged, unpolished. It wasn't fame, but it was a door. And through that door came one man who would change everything, director Guy Ritchie. Ritchie saw in Statham what others missed, authenticity. He wasn't a trained actor, but he was real. When Jason auditioned for Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Ritchie didn't see lines, he saw life. That street-tough confidence, that quiet defiance, it was all Jason. The film became a cult hit, and Statham's journey from diver to street hustler to rising star began. But as the lights grew brighter, so did the shadows. Hollywood would demand more than just strength. It would demand pieces of his soul. Success came fast. Too fast. Snatch, The Transporter, Crank, The Mechanic, Fast and Furious. Jason became the face of modern action cinema. But beneath the roaring engines and the choreographed chaos was a man still haunted by simplicity, by the quiet days he left behind. He wasn't the kind to smile for every photo, or to chase headlines. He lived quietly, worked relentlessly, and spoke rarely. In an industry built on illusion, Jason's authenticity was his armor, and his curse. While others built empires of publicity, Jason built walls of privacy. Few knew the real man behind the camera, the one who still worried about his family back in England, the one who trained for hours alone, not for vanity, but for discipline. Behind the muscles was a man who never stopped feeling like the outsider. Hollywood adored his strength, but misunderstood his silence. Directors called him unbreakable. Friends knew he was just protecting what little was left unbroken. Yet, life, as it often does, struck when he least expected it. During the filming of The Expendables 3, a stunt went horribly wrong. A truck's brakes failed, and Jason, behind the wheel, plunged into the sea. For a few breathless seconds, the world nearly lost him. He escaped, barely, but something in him changed. For the first time, the invincible man saw mortality up close. He laughed it off publicly, as he always did. But privately, the image of that sinking truck stayed with him, the feeling of losing control, of staring at the edge of everything he had built. Around the same time, he began losing people who had shaped his journey, colleagues, mentors, friends. The death of Paul Walker in 2013 hit him harder than many realized. They had shared scenes, laughter, and the unspoken understanding between men who lived life on full throttle. Suddenly, Jason wasn't just doing stunts, he was outrunning ghosts. As he crossed his 50s, something else began to fade, the sense of invincibility. The body that once took every hit without hesitation began to slow down. Injuries healed slower, nights grew longer, and the mirror reflected not the man from the transporter, but the man time refused to stop. He was still the action star, still the symbol of endurance. But when the cameras stopped, he was just Jason, a man quietly reckoning with the weight of years and the silence of fame. By the time he turned 58, Jason Statham had achieved what few ever could: global fame, respect, and a legacy carved in adrenaline. Yet, behind that legacy, a quieter truth unfolded, one that fame could never protect him from. He became a father later in life, and it changed him completely. With his partner, actress and model Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, he found a kind of peace that action could never give. Holding his son for the first time, he realized how fragile strength really is. Suddenly, it wasn't about explosions or box office numbers, it was about moments, laughter, and love that didn't need applause. But even happiness carries its shadows. The older he grew, the more he watched the people he began with fade from the spotlight, some by choice, others by tragedy. The industry that once celebrated him began chasing younger faces, faster names. Jason never complained, but the truth was clear: Hollywood moves on, no matter how legendary you are. Then came health scares, nothing public, but enough to remind him that every stunt, every fall, every impact had left invisible marks. Years of physical punishment had taken their toll. Doctors warned him to slow down, but slowing down wasn't in his vocabulary. He pushed through the pain, through the exhaustion, through the fear that one day his body might no longer match his spirit. He began spending more time away from Hollywood, back in nature, away from noise. The man who once defined chaos now found comfort in stillness. Friends noticed the change. He was reflective, calmer, softer. "Fame is just noise," he once said quietly in an interview. "It disappears when you stop chasing it." It wasn't depression, it was awakening. The kind that comes only when you've seen both ends of life, the hunger of the beginning and the silence of the summit. Jason had lived both. Still, there was something unspoken, a heaviness that came not from failure, but from endurance. To survive success is its own kind of loneliness. Now, at 58, Jason Statham stands at a crossroads few men ever reach. He is not broken, but he carries the scars of every battle, visible and hidden. His life is a reminder that even the strongest are not immune to time. He still trains, still works, still loves. But his eyes, those sharp, defiant eyes, carry a softness now, the kind born from gratitude and grief intertwined. He often visits his old hometown quietly, without cameras. The same streets where he once sold fake jewelry now see him walking with his son, teaching him lessons no film script could ever capture. He doesn't talk much about the darker days, the loneliness between films, the near misses, the friends gone too soon. But in every pause, you can sense it: the man behind the myth, the survivor beneath the star. Hollywood will always remember him as the unstoppable force, the man who could outrun bullets and survive explosions. But those who truly understand his story know better. Jason Statham's greatest strength was never his body, it was his resilience, his refusal to surrender when the world said, "Fade away." As time moves on, his career may slow, the roles may change, but the legacy remains untouched. Because true strength isn't in how fast you run, it's in how deeply you endure. And so, the tragedy of Jason Statham isn't one of failure or fall. It's the quiet tragedy of time, the way it humbles even the fiercest, the way it turns heroes into men, and men into memories. Yet, in that truth lies something beautiful. Because even as age softens his fire, it cannot erase his flame. Jason Statham may have faced heartbreak, loss, and time itself, but he never broke. He simply learned to fight differently. And maybe that's what makes his story so human, so heartbreaking, and so unforgettable. Not the stunts, not the fame, but the man who stood tall, even when the spotlight dimmed.